Hi, nice to see you all joining. Slowly, everybody's joining the session. Welcome. This is our first session of 2025. So happy New Year to all of you. I hope you're all doing well and you're having a great start to the new year. Again, also in this session, we're expecting quite a high number of participants. So I'm now while we wait a little bit for everybody to join, we can wait another minute. We can start very soon. But seeing the high amount of participants, I will still hope we can try and make the session as interactive as possible. So as usual, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box. And also at the end, we will have a Q&A session where you can feel free to also unmute yourself if or raise your hand if you wish to ask a question. So I would say let's start it. We have a few slides to go through today as well. We have some topics prepared. Today is a little bit more specifically on the assurance model rather than on the platform, because we have a few topics we would like to present a little bit more. And online with me today I have Giovanna, our oversight manager, and Jacobo, our consultant for Gold Standard. So I would say let's start with the usual house rules. This session is being recorded, and we will share, of course, the recording at the end of the session. So if you are a colleague, if somebody is missing it, you can always catch up later. Always feel free to put any questions in the Q&A box. We will try to answer all the questions during the session, but today we only have 45 minutes, so hopefully that will be enough time. Next slide, please. And we can go quickly through the agenda. Today, Giovanna is going to walk us through the gold standard for global goals document structure. This is a little bit of a recap. And then Jacobo is going to talk a little bit more about validation and verification body requirements, rule updates. Then Giovanna will get the word back, and she will also talk about some rule updates related to the digital SDG impact tool. And then we will end with little slide with some support things, reminders, and then we will open the floor for questions, of course. So I would say let's get started. And Giovanna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and welcome everybody to our second session on Q&A and drop-in session for the VVBs. And the first agenda topic that we have today is the GS4GG document structure. So this is an important topic, I'd say. This is a recap, a refresher for most of you, but I think they will give you also some context to the next coming agenda point. So the question now is, how is the GS4GG document structure arranged and how can it be navigated efficiently? So you can see we have one standard, as you can see here, many possibilities. Why do we have here is, as you can know, Gold Standard is working in several sectors, many project types. And this makes us easier to kind of navigate you and the project developers, of course, throughout all our documentation and how to locate, position your projects within this whole structure that we have in place. So as we say, we can have, for instance, a project coming in as a submitted for a different certification stage. This varies from preliminary review to credit in peer renewal. So this project could be in either way, either a GS4GG or GS4GG plus CDM, or it can be a project transitioning from clean development mechanism project to GS4GG. We also have different scales for the projects, as you know. So we have very tiny projects. We have also small and large scale projects. And then on the next category, we would have individual or grouping of the project. So we would have, for instance, standalone projects or we could have distributed projects. This is the case in case we have, for instance, a large amount of projects which are in a certain region and different countries, for instance. So we would have this distributed project category type. Or we would have the program of activities. And this program of activities is when we're having one project which is replicated in again in a region or in many countries. So as you can see, also different varieties here. So therefore, next we have the project activity type. So we are grouping also our projects differentiated in this different project activity types. For instance, we have the community services. This could be, for instance, the households, the cook stoves, households, for instance, projects, or energy, right? Households energy projects, for instance. We also have the renewable energy, land use and forestry. These are for projects for instance, in the agricultural sector or the forestry sector. Then we have sustainable urban development and infrastructure. So all these projects also can be divided or are fitting into this different project activity types based on the project or sectoral scope using a certain, for instance, methodology. So here we have, again, different sectoral scopes that we have at GoStand. So this is, again, renewable energy. We have transport, waste, forestry, agriculture, water, among others. And these projects also have different claims. So these projects might be claiming on emission reductions or health benefits, water benefits, renewable energy labels. And of course, these projects are or should be demonstrated impact towards our sustainable development goals. So just to present a very short example for you to know, to know how this works, is we have, for instance, a certification, a project which is under certification, the certification stage, validation design certification. This is a GS for GG project, for instance, a small project. This would be a standalone project activity. This would fit into the project activity type, which is the land use and forestry. This is a forestry project and claiming emission reductions and showing impact towards the SDG number 13, which is on climate action, and SDG, for instance, number 15, which is life on land, for instance. So the next slide is a little bit more about the document structure that we have so far. So as you could see in the previous slides, this is just to locate your projects, how to categorize your projects within our standard. And here we are having the document structure. So first of all, we have at the first level, we're having the principle and requirements. This is where we have information on the stakeholders consultation, for instance, or the safeguards principles, or even the gender requirements, and this or information on the small scale requirements. So all this you can find in our principle and requirements, which applies to all kind of projects, to all projects. And these are related, we have also related tools and templates in place. And this is again available on our website. On the second level, for the document structure, we're having our activity requirements. So as I was saying before in the previous slides, we would have different activity requirements, and you can locate your project depending on this. So this is very specific to the project type and applies for most project types. So would have some projects that don't fit into this activity requirements, would fit into the next level, the third level. But for most of the projects, as said, the activity requirements applied. So for now, we're having the community services activity requirements. We have the land use and forestry activity requirements, the blue carbon, freshwater and wetlands activity requirements, and renewable energy. And at the third level, we're having the SDG impact methodology. So this is, again, very specific to the project. It's important also that the project developer really identifies the methodology and the right way. So, and here it's important to state that Gold Standard is recognizing most of the CDM methodologies, but we do have specific methodologies that are Gold Standard for global goals specific. It's also important to state here that even though the project might apply for SDDM methodology, that we also have requirements, gold standard requirements that the project needs to, or we need to comply with. So also an important statement here is that in case you don't find any the methodology that would fit to the project, it's also important to know that the project developer might come up with its own methodology, but we need to be, of course, he has another process, another procedure in place, but I'm not going to go into details on that. But it's also a possibility. And the fourth layer would be the product requirements. This is in case we are having the emissions, so the carbon emissions. So we do have in place the GHG emission reductions product requirements that you might want to revise. So as you can see here, this is the document structure that we have in place. And this gives you also here in the next slide a brief an overview about the documentation that we have in place and the highlights that we're having here. So in the color highlights, so for the principal requirements and activity requirements, impact quantification methodologies and VVBs, we are having rule updates. So this is just an indication on this slide for you to know that we are having rule updates in most of this on this highlighted documentations, as you can see here on the slide. We are not going to present those today. We are going to be presenting the rule updates for our core documentation on the VVB requirements. And so this is just the floor. I will open the floor now to and invite our colleague, Jacobo Carrizales, who will navigate you, present to you the main changes to our VVB requirements. Thank you. And please, Jacobo, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Giovanna, for having me here and giving me the chance to remember how important it is to have a look at the validation and verification requirements. Could you go to the next slide, please? As you might know, the third version of the VVB requirements was released on the 12th of November last year, 2024. And this new document, this version, displays very significant changes regarding various additions, replacement, structures, updates, deletions, additions, and insertions. So these categories of changes are visible in the new version, the third version of the VVB requirements document. We're going to talk about, in this session, about the additions and the insertions. If you go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So there are 5 major changes named as insertions, and those changes are related to the top management of VVBs, the disputes on the VVBs as a mechanism, the gold standard certification pathways, the validation and verification technical knowledge, and the sectoral scopes and technical knowledge required from VVBs. If you can go to the next slide, please. We're going to present 3 examples, but we extend an invitation to all of you to read thoroughly these new validation and verification requirements document. When we speak about the top management, the main changes are related to the need of commitment from the top management regarding the development and implementation of a management system, ensuring policies and also must be implemented and of course understood at the organizational level. As for the impartiality, top management shall ensure actions are taken, of course, in the matters of safeguarding impartiality once the review process is carried out, of course, by the top management. These changes are very much in line with provisions on ISO 1465. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. Regarding the certification pathways, and I want you to think of the slide Giovanna presented a couple of minutes ago regarding all the certification stages and the very different options in a gold standard project. This particular change talks about how different pathways can follow on the basis of the different accreditation systems. This information might be completed by reviewing the gold standard fee schedule. So in this sense, it's very important to complement this document, the VVB requirements, with the fee schedule regarding the gold standard certification pathway. Next slide, please. Thanks. As for the sectoral scopes and knowledge, we wanted to bring just one example. You can have a look at the Annex D of the VVB requirements. And we wanted to present one example of the sectoral scope 15, agriculture. This is related to the technical area 15.1, agriculture, and the typical group of activities and greenhouse gas emissions are described in a table. The Annex D comes in form of a table and brings every sectoral scope and the reference technical area. So for this particular example, many examples of the type of activities could be management of agricultural operations to reduce emissions, management of fertilizer application, and the typical GHG emissions are nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide emissions. And the technical knowledge required and expected from the VVB and the personnel involved in these kind of validation and verifications activities are agricultural operations, use of fossil fuel and electricity in agricultural operations, and methods to quantify their use and the corresponding greenhouse gas emission, carbon stocks, and greenhouse gas emissions that could be attributed to the displacement or shifting of project agricultural activities. These, as for the insertions, could you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. Now, speaking about additions, we have 7 major additions regarding the sectoral scopes, the finance and liability of VVBs, the information management, the responsibility of VVBs, the mandatory training and examination activities, the staff matrix and checklist for requirements, and the modification, suspension, or revocation of the accreditation with gold standard. Next slide, please. Thanks. Probably one of the most important insertions in the VVB requirements version 3 is the finance and liability. You will find these in section 10, and this states that VVBs must have financial resources and stability, and they also might have evidence, and they might provide this evidence of financial resources and business plans. This could be complemented as well by establishing, documenting, and implementing and maintaining procedures to regularly monitor these finance stability and, of course, the final resources available for the VVB. As for the liability, it concerns on risks and how the VVBs and the top management make arrangements to cover potential risks, including, for example, liability insurances, as well as financial resources reserves. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thanks. Thanks. As for the responsibility, probably the most important part on section 7515 state the context of responsibility, not addressing the personnel as the human resources department, but rather oversighting the validation and verification activities. This is basically is very important. This is basically telling us how important is for the VVB for the actions of the personnel, including those validation and verification activities. This has been inserted in the 3rd version. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. And lastly, as an example, we are talking about information management. This is an entirely new section, and this is asking VVBs to fulfill the requirements regarding information to be made available on the public domain as well as the confidentiality. We would expect from VVBs to have publicly available to any stakeholder the accreditation sectoral scopes, the location of the central office, and any other office of outsourcers entities, a list of gold standard projects and program of activities for which it has been conducted validation or verification activities, the policy to safeguard impartiality, the complaint handling procedure, the appeals handling procedure, among others. This information we expect to be publicly available. And lastly, as for the confidentiality, the VVBs are required to establish, document, and implement, and of course to maintain a policy and a mechanism, a viable mechanism, to safeguard confidentiality and to ensure the personnel involved in validation and verification activities is bounded to these confidentiality provisions. Of course, we are expecting through these requirements, VVBs do not disclose any information about the project activity or the developer who are involved in the gold standard project or program of activity for which the VVB is providing any validation and verification services. And I believe this is all from my side, Giovanna. Thanks.
So thank you so much, Jacobo, for giving you insights on the new changes of our VVB requirements. And the next topic is on digital SDG impact tool rule updates. So here is a little bit the question on what rule updates apply for the digital SDG impact tool. So it's important, first of all, to say that this SDG impact tool came or was launched in 2022, and as efforts for gold standard on digitization, we have now the digital version of the SDG impact tool now. And before we move forward with the rule updates, just a slide mentioning again what is the digital SDG impact tool. This is, as stated here, is a comprehensive tool designed to streamline the reporting, quantification, verification, and certification of sustainable development impacts under the gold standard for global goals. On the bottom of our slides, you can find the link to the digital SDG impact tool user manual that I strongly recommend you to revise. And we move forward now to what are the rule updates regarding the digital SDG impact tool. And the rule updates for this is mainly around the mandatory use of the digital SDG impact tool. So as per timeline, so this is important timelines to keep in mind, is that as per September 2024, all projects, POAs, VPAs listed on that date and after is mandatory for them to use the SDG impact tool. Then per February 2025, are all listed registered projects, POAs, VPAs that are submitted for design and review and design certification renewal review are again is mandatory for them to use the digital SDG impact tool. And as per September 2025, it is mandatory for all submissions for design inclusions, performance or renewal or design certification review to use the SDG impact tool. So again, I recommend you to check out the SDG impact tool user manual that we have available on our website. And if you have again any questions on that, we're happy to provide you answers with. So back to you, Anna. This is all what we have on our presentation for today, and looking forward to our Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giovanna and Jacobo. So I will not bother you too much. Just one slide with a few concepts. If you have attended the previous slide, you have already seen the slide. It's just a reminder that we have an upcoming session on the 28th of January, so in 2 weeks. Slightly different time this time, so it will be at 13 CET. Please don't forget to register, because only if you register you get the invite with the link to join the session. If you don't have the link, feel free to send us an email at vvb@goldstandard.org. We are very happy to send you the invites to the next session. And as usual, we would really appreciate if you could submit your questions in advance, so we know a little bit what to prepare and which experts to have online with us during the session, like today, for example. Topics could be questions about the new assurance model, standard requirements, the auditor exam, and also the assurance platform. So that was all for me, Joanna. I think we can now open the floor for questions. There was a question that came in, I think it's for Jacobo, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's about the VVB requirements. The question is, what is considered top management in a VVB, which is a group company?
Yeah, thanks, Anna. This is definitely the people responsible on guiding the organization in terms of technical issues as well as administration issues and management issues. So regardless the organizational structure of companies, there is always a group of people named the top management responsible for making decisions within the context of management and how the VVB fulfills not just requirements but how is commercially led. So as for the ISO 1465, there is required top management structure making decisions. So in short, and I'm sorry if I extended, there is the people, the group of people, and it's normally a group of people. You can name it the board or many other names, but is the group of people responsible of making decisions and assuring the correct functioning of the VVB.
Great, thank you, Jacobo. Okay, I don't see another question in the chat, but I see a hand raised for a while now. Sanjay, if you would like to ask your question, you can unmute yourself. I'm not sure if the hand is up by mistake or if you would like to ask something.
Mine was on technicalities. I just couldn't see the presentation. I just want to clarify whether it is my issue or is it with others.
Okay.
I just couldn't follow. I just had a speaker.
Okay, sorry about that. Not sure what's the issue there. But I hope it was visible for the others. Sorry, I hear some background noise. Somebody else wanted to ask a question? I think I saw a hand raised, but it's gone. Margaret, yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, Anna. I had a quick question. Hi. I wanted to ask about the username and password that was given to all the GS approved auditors recently. So do they go ahead and use this username and password and upload their documents on the assurance platform by themselves?
Maybe I take this one. Yes, so if you have your credentials already for the assurance platform, this means that you are totally now, so the access has been granted and you can start navigating through the assurance platform. If you have any issues, so not working IDs or credentials, so please be so kind to post those issues and send us an email to vbb@goldstandard.org so we can fix the problem. So the issue is now this is a new platform. We're having a lot of issues coming in and we'll try to deal with them. So please be so kind to let us know if you're experiencing any kind of technical issue with the platform. So happy to reach out. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Also, thank you so much, Giovanna. Also, I would like to ask you another question. What about the people who are the externals who are working for different VVBs? How do they go about using the username and password, as they're not able to see their projects under different VVBs? So should they create another email ID for this, or do they reach out to the VVB centralized office, and the centralized office goes ahead and uploads the document on their behalf? So this is for the externals that I'm asking for.
Okay, thank you, Margaret, for that. Yes, thank you for the question. This has been already raised. The issue is now that only the people that has requested the access are the ones who are entitled to have access to the platform. For the externals, this is something that needs to be extra requested, and you do the request through through our email address, and we can grant that. I mean, so it's actually the VVB deciding on who's having access to the platform. So for now, I mean, this is why we're sending last year this email requesting those credentials, and usually are mainly the auditors who have access now to the assurance platform, and for externals, this needs to be extra granted. I mean, and this needs to be again requested by the VVB. Yes, indeed. Thank you. I hope it clarifies. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for the question. Okay. We have one question in the chat, or it's a remark, I'm not sure, but maybe for Jacobo again. Did you mean group of people responsible for making strategic decisions of VVBs? Probably related to the question before about group company. I'm not sure. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Yes, this is definitely a follow-up on the question. Yes, it depends. Once again, it depends on the structural or on the structure of the organization. Definitely, one of the functions of the top management is making strategic decisions. But again, if you think of provisions on ISO 14065, the organizational structure and top management, if I'm not mistaken, that's section 6 of the ISO standard. Every validation and verification body must have a top management structure. So yes, this could be about decisions, strategic decisions, but I presume top management decisions go beyond just strategic decisions.
Great, thank you. Hope this clarifies. I don't see any other question coming in. If anybody has a question, feel free again to raise your hand and unmute yourself. Otherwise, I guess we can close the session for today. We hope it was helpful. Yeah, and hopefully see you in the next session then on the 28th of January. Thank you so much to Joanna and Jacobo for presenting today. And I wish you all a lovely day. So, bye.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.